Hey guys, welcome back. So now with getting back into Batman Urban Legends and continuing our conversation on Cheer with part 2 of 6, this story is starting off so wild and in a good way. And I really just can't wait to see where it ends when the dust settles. So let's get into it. But first, if you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to catch the spills every week. And don't forget to hit that bell up top so we can squad up in the comments for the first hour. Alright, so just as a reminder, going into this story, just keep in mind, when Jason Todd returned to Gotham, he had agreed to make the compromise to only use rubber bullets. And with making that compromise of only using non-lethal rounds, this meant that he had to use this tactic for anyone, regardless of the situation, regardless of the threat level, etc, etc. But with him finding Tyler and seeing much of himself within Tyler, with him seeing Tyler's mother nearly OD on cheer drops, and it really made Jason want to do something so that he can help Tyler either not end up like himself or go down perhaps even a worse path by being exposed to these type of things at a young age, much like Jason was. But with him agreeing to find Tyler's dad, since his mother was in this drug-induced coma, Jason then got Barbara's help to trace a number, get his location, so he could reunite Tyler with his dad rather than just allowing him to just go into the system. But when Jason made his way into this building, he had then quickly discovered that they were mass-producing cheer drops. But then also, by the way, when Jason had went in there letting off them rubber bullets, these guys had let off a lot of rounds, but unfortunately they only hit each other. And that part had nothing to do with Jason's compromise, because he said he wasn't gonna kill. But if he got out the way of a bullet and another goon was standing behind him, Jason ain't had nothing to do with that. But with Jason searching throughout this cheer drop factory and finally finding Tyler's dad, Andy, for one, Andy tried to run. But Jason stopped him with a rubber bullet. Andy dropped his gun, and after that Jason just picked it up so Andy just wouldn't try anything. But with Andy telling Jason that he didn't care about his son Tyler or his mother, and he can care less if either of them die, and on top of that he had been giving cheer drops to little Tyler, and it's almost like that was the detail that Jason heard, and immediately he was like, that's it, and he shot Andy with his own gun. And it wasn't until after the fact where Jason realized what he had just did to Tyler. Because for Jason, while he's processing this in his mind, for him, this isn't the first time he's killed. And in most cases, much like how this one started, all he knows is that they got a gun pointed at him and they're shooting his way with the intention to kill. And while his mind's racing, he's just thinking it's easy to squeeze when you don't know nothing about the person shooting your way. And right after, when he calls Barbara, he can't even get his words out because all he can think about is Tyler and the fact that he just killed Tyler's father, regardless of how terrible of a father Andy was. And with what Jason has done at this point, it's bigger than Andy and it's bigger than Jason. And when this happens, it immediately reminds Jason of an encounter that he had with his mother's dealer back when Jason was a kid. Because when Jason was little, his mother would have this routine of sending him to the store with a few bucks and asking him just to get something random, just to get him out of the house. And when this would happen a number of times, his mom would tell him her friend Robbie's coming over, and Jason knew what that meant, because kids aren't stupid. But this particular time when Jason was leaving, he had passed Robbie in the hallway, and when he did, he had said something real slick, and immediately after Robbie roughed him up, telling Jason hey, if you want to talk tough, be ready to back it up. And with seeing this moment come back to Jason's memory now, it's almost like Tyler's father Andy reminded Jason of his mother's dealer. Almost as if we're being shown the history of Jason's dark hatred for dealers specifically. But after this, then jumping over to current day, we have Sidney Page and his crew who formerly worked for the Scarecrow, to whom, we had talked about in the previous video, is dead to the general public, or as far as the knowledge of the general public. But at this point in time with Batman continuing his investigation, but then all of a sudden Batman hijacks the radio, and the next thing they hear is, "Sidney, you disappoint me," on the radio. And when Batman tells him that he's there, Sidney's just nope, and he jumps out of the moving van. But even with doing it, it doesn't help Sidney much, because for one, the van had wonderful brakes. It stopped right after where he rolled to. But right after that, Batman blacked out the whole street and he started just picking off these guys one by one, because at this point, since he's had the chance to examine the cheer drops and they appear like they have remnants of the Scarecrow formula, it then seems pretty suspicious that this former crew for Scarecrow is still together. Because if their boss is dead and they're not working for him, then why are they out making runs? But Bruce then quickly figures it out when he sees that these guys have on heavy winter jackets, and he realizes realizes that they're actually working for Mr. Freeze, and Sydney quickly confirms. But even with Bruce taking them down, it wasn't like they were committing a crime, they were actually just making a grocery run. But even still, Bruce leaves them to get picked up by the authorities, and it's here where Barbara lets Bruce know that the police have already arrived at the warehouse where Jason had went to, but then also that Bruce should really check it out because she believes that Jason is really in trouble. And man is he, because for one, like during this time that he's watching Tyler's asking all these questions like, hey Mr. Red Hood, are we gonna find my dad? Is my mom okay? And in response, Jason, like, he just lies. And he tells Tyler like that his dad is sick too. And it's kind of messed up because if his dad caught anything, it was a bullet. And with Jason just lying to this kid, it's not doing him any favors. And on top of that, with Jason telling Tyler again that he'll look after him, that then makes Jason feel even worse because he knows that he can't really look after and take care of this kid. And once again, he doesn't want Tyler to go into the system only for him to get adopted by some obsessed militaristic billionaire. And with going through Jason's thought process in this moment, it's here where we then get the conclusion of that flashback when his mother's dealer Robbie had came by, and when Jason had came back from the store, he had just waited outside, like he didn't go in. But with us seeing how this played out, after the dealer had left and he was walking down the stairs, Jason had just went up behind him and he pushed him. And it's here where Jason thinks back on this and he feels like he had never had a chance because of the environment that he grew up in, and now because of him, Tyler's gonna turn out the same way. And if that's the case, it's going to be all because of Jason. And it's not to say this kid's life would have been great had he went back to his father, like not at all. But with Jason killing his father and then lying about it, and Tyler just continuing to trust Jason, the longer this goes on, the worse it'll get. But then it's here where Tyler's like, hey Red Hood, and he tells Jason like the mask is talking and it says that Batman wants to talk to you. And from the look on Jason's face, you can tell like he is freaking out. Like he's looking at the door, his nerves on the fritz, he doesn't know what to tell Bruce, he doesn't know what Bruce knows. And on top of that, he doesn't even realize that he's tripping looking at the door like Batman's just gonna walk through the front door. But when Bruce gets there, like they get straight into it because Bruce tells Jason like the police are at the warehouse, they're cleaning up your mess, including the body. And he asks Jason like, was that you? Like, did you do that? Did you kill that guy? And Jason just straightforward tells him yeah. And not really like in a bold way of like, yeah, I did it. What are you gonna do about it? Because Jason's thoughts to himself right now is like, he's scared, he's nervous because all of this is happening too quick and he doesn't know what he's gonna do about this kid. But then when Bruce tells him no guns, no killing, like not in his town, like when Bruce says that, Jason just goes off. Because with Bruce saying his town, Bruce just sounds very sanctimonious to Jason in this moment. And right now, Jason doesn't want to hear anything about Batman's code, as if he literally has the right to make the law in Gotham. And it's in this moment where Jason gets worked up and he switches from sorry to not sorry, with him knowing of the drug abuse that Andy was inflicting on Tyler and his mother. And when Jason gets worked up, he reaches for Bruce, and from there it's on. Because he puts the hand in the face and Bruce like, oh, this what we doing? This what we doing? But even like with it getting physical right here, Jason is thinking to himself like, this is a mistake. And I mean like immediately, like after that first elbow, first thought, I messed up. But at the same time, I already did it, so I gotta commit. Like the thoughts of Jason Todd right now. But in this moment even, like Jason, he is pissed at Bruce because he only sees him as another failed parent. And granted, there's a lot of things going through Jason's mind right now, but at this time it's like Bruce's lack of empathy, or at least his ability to express it, like it's really pushed Jason to his limits, because Jason really feels like Bruce thinks that he's God. And whatever Bruce says, that's it. Bruce's moral code is the law of the land. And if you break that moral code, then you're nothing less than a transgressor, rather than his son. And it's like within this fight, which at this point has just reached the place to where Bruce is like, hey, just stay down. But with all of this happening, like it really shines the light on how much Jason really just needed Bruce to be more the father figure within times of the past, rather than trying to just funnel Jason through the laws of his own morals. But then this fight comes to an end when Tyler steps out, telling Batman to leave Red Hood alone, that he's a good guy. And when this happens, like Bruce's face in this moment, like it just says it all. With him seeing Tyler here and knowing right now that this situation just got way more complicated. And so now real quick, I want to give a special shout out to all the patrons. Thank you guys for all of your support. And for anyone who's new here who wants more information on how to support the channel, I got a link below to where you can go to patreon.com/Dopespill. But that'll do it for this one, guys. And I gotta say, like, this Red Hood portion of Batman Urban Legends, like the Cheer story arc, because there's another Red Hood portion that we may talk about later, because it's Red Hood versus Grifter, but it's starting a little weird, so I kinda wanna see where it goes first. But as far as Cheer, it's reminding me quite a bit of the dynamic between Bruce and Jason that we'd seen in Three Jokers. And I don't know, might be just me, let me know your thoughts. And of course, I don't mean that in a bad way, just an observation. But let me know in the comments below, and we'll do it again on the next one. Alright, later.